Welcome back to Waiting on the Trade, the Dream Journal. I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck, and always I'm joined by Matthew Ledger
That reminds me of a story of this one time
and
when
Michael Drew.
I tell you a story too of these stories within a story, and a dream within a dream.
In this fully prepared episode, we're discussing Sandman Volume 8, World's End. Okay, Matt, do you have a random story that kind of relates to the main plot, but only as foreshadowing? We got some time to kill.
Oh, let's see. It was a dark and stormy night.
Yes.
A shot rang out. The maid
here for it.
screamed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, my Snoopy knowledge is failing me. I lost it. They would throw me out of the inn.
Oh my god.
In World's End, we digress from Sandman's main narrative yet again to hear several travelers' tales on a noteworthy night. The tales are illustrated by a variety of artists and all connect, in at least some small way, to the larger Sandman mythos. At World's End's end, we're treated to a tease of what's coming up in the series' final volumes, and it doesn't look good for our friend Morpheus.
What do you mean it doesn't look good? I think it looks like they've got a very well laid out ending.
Oh, you're right. It's a nice celebratory parade at the end. You're right.
It's very happy.
It looks like they're having a great time.
They're all getting together. They're happy. Fireworks are going off.
So, Mike, this is your favorite volume of Sandman?
Yeah, Mike, this was your favorite volume. Is your favorite volume of Sandman?
I'm going to say you did phrase it as was.
I don't know if it is anymore. I don't. I remember it. I think it got stuck in my travel along bag, and I remember reading through it. This is probably the book I've read the most out of the series.
It's not a bad one to have stuck in your travel along bag, if you're going to have one.
It's kind of easy to just get sucked in and just to read like a single story, like the story about the guy in the city. It's a pretty crazy story, and I don't know. There's a lot in it without there being a lot in it. You know what I mean? Of course, you know what I mean.
I'm trying to decide which of my two questions we should start with, and which one I should assign to Mike.
Wow, just out him right away. My God.
Wait a minute. I thought of these questions. They're my questions. They're original questions. They're the greatest questions. They're
The greatest question.
the greatest questions.
Because I feel like Mike actually set us up for a segue into both of them. I think we're going to take the positive one first. So we'll start with my question. Then we'll go to someone else's question.
Sure, yeah.
Which may also be mine.
Sure.
My question is, which story told at the inn is your favorite?
Yes.
Yes.
Do
I have to power rank these for you? Because I'll figure it out.
I was
If that's
gonna
what it
say,
takes to do a discussion.
I don't know if
I'll
I can
power
do
rank these.
favorite. I can do the one that I didn't dislike
Didn't
the most.
dislike?
Oh my God! Wait, yes, there we go.
Do you have
I got there in the end.
least favorite?
Yes,
Is
I
that
do,
what you're trying to
actually.
say?
I have a least favorite. No, I know my most favorite. I know it. I'm just.
Okay, what is it?
It's wait for it. I'm gonna flip to the title page.
I know what it is. What it is.
Tell me.
It's random. Flip this one. No, I was doing an impression of you, Pat. I don't know what your favorite story is.
Wow, I feel I don't even know what to feel right now.
I would guess that if you liked the art better, it would be the Ceraments one.
Yeah. Or however you pronounce that word.
We did it right. We're podcasters. We always pronounce things correctly.
First time. Yeah, that's my favorite one, just because the world building in that.
Called it. It was like it's got shit about how the endless work. Pat likes that one.
Well, I mean that, and I just like the idea of Necropolis. That's a city that has its own like ancient steeped history and traditions.
Yeah, and also is like gathering the funeral lore of every other world or culture or civilization. Yeah, pretty rad.
That shit's pretty cool.
You would like that one. So dark.
I do like that one.
Full of death.
How do you feel about the art in that one versus the other ones?
It's a little loose, but I don't mind it.
Okay. So the other reason the Ceraments one is weird is because that one has the most stories within a story. It's the most Sandman issue.
Yeah, there were three sub-stories, and one of the sub-stories has another story in it.
Yeah, there's a story in a story already, right? Because we're at the inn, a story gets told. and then another story gets told, and then there is another story within the story because
because that woman tells her
tells
own.
the story.
Oh yeah, I was even thinking of the old woman tells a story.
Yeah, so we inception down like 4 levels in that.
We
which
get
is
down there.
The
That
most
means that
Sandman
time would go
nonsense.
4 times slower, meaning 1 second would pass every. If it's halved each time you go down,
That's right.
reading through this book would take shit. It would be
months because that's how long
months.
it took us.
Yep.
It
Yep,
did take us a
exactly.
while.
Correct.
No, I just like the world building. I like the fact that there's like a weird like Hogwarts school for
Yeah, it's Hogwarts but creepy.
yeah for burial teaching.
Actually do like the art. It's got a lot of like old school horror vibe to it in a way that I don't think we've had since close to the beginning of the series actually. Because like it's kind of become a fantasy series by this point. Well, it's still a mix, but like we haven't seen some like good old scratchy gritty horror art in a while.
Yep. The scene with the endless in it is kind of fucking spooky. It's like, oh shit, I don't know who these guys are. They don't look familiar, except Destiny Destruction. But they really made them look different.
So yeah, that's mine.
I wanted to look up who the artist is before we get away from this one to make sure we get some credits. Looks like it's Jay Anton Pensa with Vince Locke on inks. Mike, which story is your favorite?
The Golden Boy. He's gonna be mine.
Golden Boy's a good one.
He was a good one.
I didn't like that one, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I especially like the joke that sets it up.
Yeah.
When Brent, whatever his name is talking to the guy who tells him the story.
Mhm.
He's like, the American you come from. Who was the president when he left? I didn't leave, or maybe, Bill Clinton, and before him, Bush, and before that, Bush, Reagan, and before him, Jimmy Carter. You come from one of those Americas.
It's
You have
so
a similar-
wild that like so he's like, okay, Clinton, Bush, and then the guy's like, oh, Reagan then. Like Reagan's like that much of a universal constant that you assume if there's a Bush, there's a Reagan.
There will always be a Reagan.
As a person who's really mad at Ronald Reagan, ugh. The 80s
Yeah.
have a lot to answer for. That's what I think. But that's
They're
a different
pretty
podcast.
Yeah, it is. This is about the Golden Boy, and goddamn those jowls, Nixon's jowls. Oof, they make a good appearance.
Every British person just feels the need to like make a caricature of Richard Nixon.
Nixon.
When I read that, I was thinking about it's the second Matt Smith season of Doctor Who, right? Where it opens and they have that Nixon, like the guy playing Nixon, and he's just like so over the top. Like,
Is that the silence one?
yeah,
Yep. But no, I like Prez. He's interesting, and the story
Pre-existing
is
DC
not.
character. You can find more Prez somewhere.
Is that true?
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is that a Jack Kerr? I should have looked that up before we started. I tried to look up fun facts, but
I mean, the other superhero in a cat suit sort of gave it away too. But
Yeah, that's true.
well, that's just regular DC superhero nonsense. Oh no, Joe Simon and Jerry Grandinetti, who I don't know who that is, but I think Joe Simon is like, yeah, Joe Simon co-created Captain America with Jack Kirby. That's why I was.
is there any connection between this and Watchmen? The use of the smiley face as an icon?
Certainly, possibly.
I'm just sort of
It also might just be that it's in the ether at that
Yeah.
moment in time.
right. I just thought of that. But yeah, Mike, what about this one makes it your favorite?
I really like the ending. Is my favorite. He gets a happy ending, and it's. I mean, not not necessarily happy. He dies, of course, but he gets to go on and become a fiction sort of like he becomes one of Dream's minions, which is kind of as happy ending as you get in these sort of things.
It's kind of weird how deferentially the Endless treat him, right?
Mm-hmm. It is like
even
you're
Death
talking about
is
Dream.
like. No, I mean, I guess Death more so, but both of them. But like, Death is a person who usually, when people meet her, they're like smitten by or taken with her. And this is the one time I think where like
Don't talk about me.
it's reversed. Yeah, I'm talking about you right now, calling you out.
But yeah, no, she is. She kind of is. I mean, she kind of sticks her head out for him, and it gets him out of the grasps of evil smiley guy, who I'm just going to call the personification of Nixon without Nixon's jaws, because that's what I imagine him sounding like.
Yeah, I've never really known what to make of Boss Smiley because I've seen Prez and or related Prezes turn up. They did a miniseries semi recently, with the same name but like starring a different character who basically gets elected president like via Twitter.
Huh.
Which that one's supposed to be good actually, so that's worth a check out if you like this probably. But
Does Smiley show up in other Prez stuff?
yeah, so he's definitely in that from the bits of it I've read.
Oh, okay.
I think in that he's more of like a leader of the like the mega corporations or whatever.
Hmm.
Seems correct.
I don't know, this one felt long to me. It kept going.
That's because they pack
It's
so much in.
I guess I didn't care about Prez, and I didn't understand who Boss Smiley was.
Yeah, I will say that I agree with that. Like Boss Smiley in this just kind of doesn't. You never quite figure out what his deal is, even at the end. It's like he's not God. He kind of runs the world, but he obviously doesn't quite, right? Because Prez is
No.
able to elude him. So it's like, what is his deal? What is his
Yeah.
deal?
He's the prince of the world. I don't know. I don't have the end, but I like the story. It's a classic American boy becomes the president and is a good president, but shocks everyone and does a good job, and it makes fun of Nixon. So there's it hits most of the boxes.
Is it also weird that like an Asian man has dedicated his life to pursuing the legend of this white American man?
I was trying to figure out today if like he's Boss Smiley, which is like a weird take, influenced by a thing it should be influenced by, probably. But he's not. I don't think he is. But I just looked at it today. I was like, huh, they kind of have the same ears. I don't know. I decided that no.
It's just weird, and I couldn't get a handle on it. And it makes sense that it was the DC tie-in story.
Yeah. I mean, I think Mike Allred, who did the art on this one, really wanted to do a Prez story, it says in the back, right? Look at the acknowledgments here quick.
I think I have any of mine.
Yeah, wants to work with old DC characters. Like the fact that Wildcat just randomly shows up to me is definitely like the artist wanted to draw this character. So
yeah, there's no other reason for him to be on it.
yeah,
It just felt like an homage to Watchmen to me, and it felt like a cheaper version of it. So
it's interesting.
it was all right, just not my favorite. What about you, Matthew? What is your favorite?
I think it's probably actually Hobbs Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I liked Ceraments. I think I agree with you about the Prez one in that it just kind of goes for a while. Like I actually do like that story, but I think there's not it kind of is just there for part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Hobbs Leviathan to me, that's another one that's got stories and stories. That one I think only goes 3 levels deep though.
Yeah.
Which one is the Leviathan one? That's
Jim's
The
story.
Sailor story.
Yeah.
the one with the giant floating dick.
I mean, yeah, that double page spread's so good.
It is. It's a very good spread.
And I like Hob. And I don't know, I like hidden identity stories too. And there's like 3 people with hidden identities in that story.
Yeah, for sure. I do like how it starts. We're like, wait, is this just Treasure
Moby
Island?
Dick.
No, Treasure Island at first because it's Jim.
Yeah, but it's
and he's running away from his
Ishmael, right?
mom. Yeah. There's just so many like literary references.
Yeah, there's so
surrounding
much
that.
stuff just tossed in.
There's also a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's like kind of a minor mystery story. We get a little bit of what Hobbs doing. We get to meet another immortal who's immortal completely differently, which is also
Right.
fun.
Yeah, he's the king from that story, right? Basically.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
I like the art. The art's
And
fun.
the moral is to never trust a woman, right? That's
That's right. Those women. Gotta watch out.
the moral that women are the promiscuous ones.
They're duplicitous. They'll do anything to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hide their identity and hide on your boat.
Yep.
I don't know. There's like real pathos with that character too. Like you get to the end of that story and you care about the person who's told it. in a way that I don't think you do for the first one, which is creepy, and I really like the art in that one. But that's another one that I feel like just kind of goes on for a little bit.
Like a Twilight Zone
The
episode.
Dreaming Cities one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like the Prez one, you don't really care about the guy who's telling the story. And then there are 5. Am I missing one?
No, I don't
Oh,
think so.
Cluricons. Yeah.
Oh,
fairy
right.
one.
Yes.
The
Which is
fairy
fun.
one. It's very, very fanciful.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, like by the end of it, I don't really care that much about Cluricon still. He still sucks, it turns out.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think part of the reason the Hobbs Leviathan one is my favorite is that I actually give a shit about the person who told the story at the end of the story. I think you could say the same about the Ceraments one too, actually. I think you get enough of that character whose name I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
A little bit, but I mean, at the end, I didn't really care that he hopped on a
Yeah,
centaur.
that one's definitely the most setup-y story of the stories.
Yeah, that's to get you started thinking about burials.
Yeah, and like there's very specifically 2 scenes that reference a person of the endless dying. Wonder what that's about.
Weird book who said, heavy sigh and says, okay, which one died now?
Which one this time?
Which one's dead now?
Is it despair again? It's always despair.
It's always despair. Losing those.
Is it despair?
Yeah, the despair we have is at least second despair.
Yeah, it's a new despair that we have.
I didn't catch that.
So the 6 who are in that scene in the no longer necropolis are the 6 minus despair, or the 7 minus despair.
That would be it. Yeah.
The story that's 4 stories deep in that story.
Yep.
All right, should we move on to Pat's question or my second question?
Please, my question. I demand it.
All right,
Sure.
Mike, what is your question?
Is this volume frustrating?
What do you mean by that, Mike?
Yeah, Mike, what do you mean?
I mean, is it frustrating? It's an emotional response. Are you frustrated? The way I'm reading the question that was written by me is
Mike asked me what I mean by the question.
Is it set up frustratingly? Like, is it frustrating to go through short stories where you're not actually getting necessarily resolution, or say getting multiple short stories in very rapid fire succession? So I'm more looking at it as is the layout of this frustrating to you?
That's not actually what I meant
By all
by it.
means, Matt, please tell me what your interpretation of the question.
The layout of it to me as a single volume of Sandman, like in the way you're describing, is not actually the thing that I was like, this is kind of frustrating. Like I think as the volume of Sandman you carry along in your travel along bag, I think it's actually very good. Like it's set up in such a way that you can just dip in and dip out of it. I think the first time I read this, because we were gonna do this episode like a month ago, 2 months ago, I don't know. The first time I read it, I think this is one of the few ones where I read like an issue and then set it down, and then an issue and then set it down. Like I didn't read it until I felt like stopping. Like I stopped at the actual stop points where here's the thing I actually would have done. I would have put the covers in between the chapters in this book for sure. Especially given the way like the ending pages for each ones are laid out. Like there's such a monthly comics ending page of like who's next, or here's a cliffhanger. Like give me a break for a second. Give me that sweet Dave McKean cover. Let me pause. But like as far as the actual layout of the volume and what it's doing, that I did not find frustrating. Now ask me what I did find frustrating.
I got it. I was there.
Thank you. Like real shit was going down at the end of the last volume, and now we just took a 6-month digression. It's like I can't imagine getting to the end of Brief Lives, and then the next issue of Sandman you get as a monthly issue of Sandman when this was coming out month to month is this. Like
so Brief Lives ends with Morpheus having just killed his son, right?
Yeah, sitting on his throne with blood on his hands. Yeah. And then Desire's like, well shit, it's not exactly how I drew it up, but he did it. So like, here we go, game on. And then the next volume is, I'm driving my car in the snow. It's snowing in June. Oh, that's strange. City's green.
Oh, look at him.
Well, I mean, it's foreshadowing the volume, right? The 6-month detour to build up the end.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I don't know
Like,
if it's so. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because we've been actually reading it in order, and we're doing it at like not a super fast pace.
Not
I
at all.
like
No.
no, but like I get to this one and I'm like, cool. Stories, stories. Yes, stories are great. What's going on with Dream though? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I think this is wonderful foreshadowing.
See, so one of my questions that I thought about was like, is there anything that ties these stories together and actually like it has a through line and it's like weaving a web that's set like actually propelling you forward?
They're all dreams.
Well, they're all stories.
Oh, come on, guys.
What is your interpretation?
There isn't one. It's
No,
frustrating.
It's not. I mean, it gets into my question, but the framing device of travelers in. I mean, that's the main story. The world is falling apart because something cataclysmic has happened.
Yeah. But instead of actually finding out what the thing that's cataclysmic is, we get 5 issues of diversion and then an issue that is finally like, okay, boys, here we go. Like, here's the springboard into the plot that we were going to do that we should have continued 6 months ago.
we get at least 3 scenes with the Daddy Centaur guy.
The funniest panel in this book is by far the panel where the mortuary apprentice guy climbs on the centaur
Yep.
and then runs off. Because the middle panel of so it's 6 panels, right? 2, 3 panel column.
Yep.
No, rows. 2, 3 panel rows. And the bottom middle panel is just the centaur like slightly tilted to the right. And then the apprentice slightly tilted to the left, and it's just like drawn so awkwardly to try to fit both of them in the panel. And like also, artists don't like to draw horses, and you sure can tell here.
Yep.
It's just the goofiest looking thing. I cracked up every single time I got to that page.
Stupid boy.
Man, Chiron's cool.
I don't know, I
Daddy
guess
Centaur is Daddy Centaur, though.
did you guys feel the same way at all? I guess like did you get to this volume and you were like, okay, neat, but why?
Eh, yes, I do. I do feel your frustration. I too want satisfaction. I demand the ending. Basically, at this point, it feels like that's where we're at.
Part of the reason I asked too is I don't remember feeling this way about this volume before, so I wonder if it is just the fact that our reread has been spaced out so long at this point by circumstances and time and whatever that like I'm growing impatient. I don't know. It's weird.
Sure.
I think it is excellent foreshadowing. I think this book is probably I think this is probably the peak example in the English literature pantheon of how to foreshadow events.
I would say the last 2 issues are good foreshadowing.
I mean, yes, but you also you do get bits and pieces of him earlier, and there's the constant theme of a storm, which is change. That's going on through the whole thing. So you're kind of yes, he does force you to sit down and read what amounts to nonsense for 5 issues. Uh, but it is also it's forcing you to slow down and kind of digest where you're at in the story because I mean foreshadowing you can't be heavy-handed with it, and I think putting bits and pieces in it makes you kind of it forces you to focus more on where when he is in it. So I think my point is that he uses dreams sparingly here because he knows that the next 2 volumes are going to be nothing but focused on him, and I don't know. He wants to show that there's other people out there that will be experiencing effects from what is coming. So I don't know. I like this volume. It's either my favorite or second favorite out of the books, and I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but I think that's
No, you
why I mean
totally are. I think that's a fair perspective. Like I get where you're coming from, and I think maybe on a different reread, I would even agree with you. Like I do mostly. I don't know. I don't find it like throw it across the room frustrating or anything. Like the stories are
No,
still
yeah.
enjoyable. They still have great art. They're still good stories. Like that's like the quality is not low.
No.
It's just like
no, sorry.
a minor annoyance that I don't feel like I've felt reading this volume before, which I think I've done at least twice. So
I do agree that there was some. I experienced frustration trying to follow along with all the stories within stories. I did. I have a hard time with that, man. It's like, okay, now the guy that's telling a story, telling a story about a guy telling a story, telling a guy about a story about a guy telling a story. So now we're 3 stories deep, and what the fuck are we doing here?
yeah.
I'm so lost.
I
That
heard you like
that kind of got
stories.
me. It's like I
Talk
didn't
about
sign up for
story in the
Inception here.
story.
If I wanted to watch Inception, I'd argue about whether everyone's awake or not.
Maybe there's something in there about like what an interconnected mess life is. I don't know.
I mean, for me, this we're coming up into maybe my least favorite volume. I don't like the kindly ones. I haven't read it more than maybe 1.5 times. I
I
don't
gotta
like
say,
it.
I actually don't remember that much about the kindly ones, which I guess says more for this volume than that one. Because like I got to Hobbs Leviathan and I was like, oh yeah, that fucking splash page is this one. I'm so pumped.
Yeah. So I think it's any kind of feelings of frustration is knowing what's to come in the next volume.
You don't want it to end. You're
Mhm.
David Tennanting all up in here.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it is. This is the podcast where we talked about filler episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Barbie one with Martin Tenbones and stuff, right?
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
Dream Country? I don't remember now.
That
Oh
might
yeah.
be. That sounds
Game
like
of You, I think. No, I don't remember. Who knows? Good Lord, we've been doing this
not
so
the
long.
internet. I'll look it up. Hang on.
I
Vamp, vamp,
want to
vamp,
say
vamp,
it's a
vamp,
game
vamp.
of
It came
Dream
of me.
Country.
It is a game of you.
Yes, I was sort of right after I guessed 2 other things. So, I mean, it is slightly frustrating the fact that it's obviously not the main story, but at this point, if you've gotten this far on Sandman, I think you should just be used to Gaiman going wherever the hell he pleases. And like Mike pointed out, it doesn't completely lose the thread. It's still there. I'm not sure it's there in like the first one where what if the cities wake up? Oh, I don't know what that means. What happens when they wake up? David? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of it though. Oh,
You seem like you're kind of down on these stories, though. I want you to talk about that.
I mean, this is not my favorite volume of Sandman. Just to juxtapose Michael Drew.
Hmm.
I don't know. They're okay. I mean, I wouldn't say they're bad. I just, if I were going to reread a volume, this would not be my top 3 or 4 choices. I don't know. The only one, like I said, I think the only story, other than maybe like the framing device, like the main in story, is the Ceraments story, just because the world building that it does. The other ones, I just weird.
So you're saying that you only like the stories that advance the main plot.
I guess. I mean, that is true. Touche. I mean, I don't mind Hobbs Leviathan. That's okay. But Golden Boy and the Sleeping City one are
Sleeping
just like,
City one, I think we do have to acknowledge the art is dope in though. Like it's
it's
pretty cool.
different. It
All
definitely
right,
made a
all right.
statement.
Disagrees. That's fair.
I mean, it made its mark.
All right. Better to
But
have
what
a
I say,
strong opinion one way or the other than no opinion at all.
I mean, would I say I like that one? I don't. And then there's the fairy story, which was sort of
What do
fun.
we have to say about that? Is it?
You can see
Fine.
where it's going from the beginning.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
it's fine.
You
Yeah,
want a
it doesn't.
boy? A girl? Send them both up to your room.
Yeah, see
Ugh,
progress.
progress.
I liked getting to see Nuala, but again, that's main story shit. Not
Yeah. I like how he admits that he threw in that sword fight on the staircase to throw in some action at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made
Yeah,
that
no,
up. All
it's just an okay story. As on the whole, the stories are just okay compared to some of the other really good ones. You know?
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
agree.
So in that way, it's frustrating because I know this series ends strong. I just know it gets a little weak for me right about now. So that's where I found my frustration.
Okay.
We got a better discussion on that question than I thought we would, actually.
Ah, was that Mike's? It was Mike's, right? Good,
It was
That was
good
Mike's.
job,
yeah.
Mike.
Whoever drew Nixon got the did spot on.
Please ask your question so we can stop talking
So the
about these
final question.
cows.
But they're
we've
so beautiful. Look
basically
at them.
we've basically gone over this already, but
I don't think we
just
have, actually. I think you started touching on it.
all right. My question is, do you guys prefer this volume's use of the inn as a framing device versus the other volumes of collected short stories?
Trying to decide now if I also misspelled framing as farming or if you uncorrected that in the
Oh,
Google
I
Doc.
didn't touch this.
Oh God, we both misspelled it because I didn't
The
copy and
farming
paste.
device. A good trowel, you know?
Do you? Yeah, you just crank your in apart into separate pieces,
Yeah,
rebuild it. It's a farm. Oh my
it's
goodness.
there.
So it's weird, right? And I think
I don't. Why do you think Gaiman jumped to using it in this as opposed to, was it Seasons of Mist? No, Fables from
because
Reflection.
the other ones that we've gotten where they've been short stories have been random one-off issues in the run, but they just weren't collected that way.
Okay.
We talked about that, right? We talked about how right now DC is God fucking DC. DC is collecting the Sandman volumes in like 4 chunks, and it's
Yeah.
actually 1 to 75 as opposed to the 10 volumes there have been for forever. Thanks for ruining my podcast structure, DC.
Assholes.
And so a lot of the volumes we've read that have been single issue stories have actually been like Sandman number 14, 21, and 37 or whatever, right? Like the reason there's no framing device for all of those in a row is because they didn't come out back to back.
I mean, but these ones would have had to, right? Because they're all in the inn.
Yeah, these all did. This is one consecutive Sandman chunk, which is
Yeah.
why it makes
Okay.
more sense for them to have a framing device that carries from 1 to 6.
What do you think? It's the DC editor saying, "For the love of God, Neil, for the love of God, give us something."
I don't think so. I think it's partly because we are in the end game, right? Like we're pretty much there. The next 2 volumes are cataclysmic shit happens and then there's Fallout.
Yeah.
So I think this is the last chunk where you get to do the thing that's happening here, which is you find your favorite artist that you like. You say, "Hey, you want to do a story in the Sandman universe?" And you do it.
Sure. Because he needs stories for this more than, yeah.
I don't even know if it's needs. I think it's like, okay, I mean, this series is such a wild collection of artists, actually, when you think about it, right? And I think this is the last bit where you get to go, okay, I get to just work with whoever I want. We tell one-off stories, and then we're in the 16 issue stretch to the end at that point.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, this might be the last chance I have to rope in some awesome like sea fantasy artist to draw Leviathan, or
Well,
rope
from
in Mike Allred to draw Wildcat because he seems to really want to draw Wildcat.
what I remember of the kindly ones, I'm pretty sure the art takes a drastic shift one more time. But I think it is consistent throughout the majority of the volume, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not remembering much about the kindly ones, so we'll see how that goes when we get there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, which do you prefer then? Do you like the scattershot one-offs just thrown at you, or do you like some ease in, ease out of a framing of people telling stories?
Kind of just a different thing, right? Like I think is my first reaction to it is like it's
Look,
sort of an apples and oranges thing.
it keeps it like diegetic, right? It keeps it in the world,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. these are stories being told by characters in the story that we're reading,
I will
as
say,
opposed to the other ones are just like popping out of nowhere.
as a person who felt the frustration that it wasn't progressing the main plot, I think if it was random one-off stories that were just happening and they didn't progress the main plot, as opposed to there at least being a plot within the 6 issues of like something started in one and is ending in the other, right? Like Brant
Sure.
has an actual story that's happening, and oh gosh, I'm doing it now where I forgot her name.
Yeah,
The woman that he came there with.
She's
Charlene.
gone now. There we go.
Charlene. Yeah, there we go. Like she has a story also, which she gets to tell even though she doesn't think it's a story.
Right.
I don't know which one I prefer though. I think a lot like you talked, Pat, about how this volume for you doesn't feel as strong as some of those other volumes. And I think
Mhm.
it's because those stories are set up in such a way that they're meant to be more impactful as a one-off thing. Like this one's definitely leaning on the fact that they're operating within a structure, right? Like
Sure.
I think they're just kind of wacky for wacky's sake in some points because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter because they're not the actual story. The actual story is what's going on at the inn.
Yeah. I don't think I think it's the strength of the story themselves that I would say I'm disappointed in this one.
What's
'Cause
what
I
I'm
don't
saying is I
think
think they get to be a little weaker because they have
sure.
that frame behind them. In which case the frame is actually kind of holding them back.
Maybe. I mean I think if you were to remove the end story from this, I would say the stories would get worse in this.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Am I just repeating what you've just been
No, like we're saying similar things, I think.
Okay.
So like
Sure.
I think y- like they definitely get worse if there's no in. But I think the fact that there is an in makes them constructed such that they have to feed into that story too. So like they're definitely I think if it was a volume of 6 separate stories, they would be noticeably different stories. I think more stuff would have to actually happen in them for us to get because like one of my criticisms of the stories is like a lot of them I don't really feel invested in them. They're cool stories. They're
Yeah.
neat,
Mhm.
but they're just neat. Whereas like Calliope, which I probably butchered the pronunciation on that, like you're invested in that. Like you
Oh yeah.
want like you want to know what the resolution of that story is and you care. Like even Dream of Thousand Cats, like you
You had to
care
bring it
about
up.
that story.
Mhm.
You had to. Why do we care about that?
I don't know, Mike, you tell me why you care about that because I think we have different answers.
Clearly, it's because I like cats. Jeez.
Listen to the
I was.
previous episode to find out why, yes.
I don't know
whereas
why.
whereas this is more like the actual story is the story at the end. So you get to like be a little bit more loosey goosey with the stories that are going on besides because they don't matter quite as much for the most part. So I
Sure.
think that's part of why both you and I are like, what's going on in this volume a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't prefer it.
Fair enough.
Is the weird roundabout answer.
I would sort of be interested to see Gaiman attempt to have a framing device similar to this for the other collected story volumes. Don't know if it's possible, but like
In
I don't
the
know.
the remastered edition.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even mind if it were like Lucian in his library and what's his name, the pumpkin, the scarecrow,
See, but I don't think those
Marv.
stories need it.
They don't, but like, yeah, no, I'm talking myself out of it. I don't know. I just felt like the framing device did so much for these stories, but as we were pointing out, maybe it's just because the stories need that framing device to be as strong as they are. So
Yeah,
maybe
there's
you're right.
you can definitely see the I don't know, you can see how the Lego pieces fit together in this one, I think.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think, Mike?
I don't. I don't think.
It's I mean, of the two, of like just being turning a page, the next volume is another story, as opposed to having
Oh no,
like
I fully prefer that. Fully prefer that. This
you
is
just
this layout. It gets me, man. Like I'm sorry, I was rereading the story with the Necropolis because I was trying to remember all the different stories in it, and because I
yeah.
remember I had a question about one of them
Mhm.
that never actually got answered. but no, this fucks with me. Like, give me a Wonder Woman comic where, all right, there's the end of the story. Now we're going on to the next book. This messes with me a little bit.
I'm trying to think if there are any stories in this one that hit as hard as the worst stories in volumes 3 and volume 6. And I'm not sure there are. Like, just looking at the Wikipedia thing for 3 and 6, so it's probably not a fair comparison, given that they're
There's
in
my
the rearview mirror, but
what is it that Petrofax was not allowed to say? Because he gets cut off. His master's like, shut your mouth, you little bitch. And so he has to shut up.
I thought it was the
Right.
burial rites of the Endless.
yeah, it definitely is.
Was it?
Yeah, because he's starting to talk about the book and the cerements and like what he learned about them, and that's where we get cut off when we would learn things that are actually useful.
Okay, that for some reason I was not following that. He's like, shut your damn mouth. Fine,
Yeah,
I'll shut
I'm
up.
pretty sure it's the burial rites of an Endless.
Yeah, from what
Well,
I
that
can
would be
remember of volumes 3 and 6, which were the other ones that had like collections of short stories in them, like the worst story in those volumes is better than the best story in these volumes, which I think might be contentious. Don't hold me to that. It could change my mind. But
I think you're right. I don't pick out any of these necessarily as being particularly like maybe Hobbes Leviathan is emotional and, and kind of touching, but the other I don't really give a shit about
Facade
that.
is just so fucking good.
And this guy who gets lost in the city, that's me. That's me every goddamn day. I go
like
to
I'm look,
Chicago. Oh shit, I've been lost here for months. Yeah, get over it, dude.
like we're stacking these up against the Emperor of the United States. No.
No,
The
no.
Thermidor, which you
Thermidor's
couldn't.
not great, but
I liked Thermidor, but
oh yeah,
more than I think I like these.
Emperor of the United States is buying away.
The
Hunt
Hunt.
was
I
good.
can take or leave the Hunt. Do you think
I
you
like
liked the Hunt better than
I
I
like
did?
the
Yeah.
Hunt more than Thermidor. Yeah,
Yeah. Soft
August was great.
Places.
Soft Places. What is Soft Places?
That's the Marco Polo in the desert one.
That's not great either.
Yeah, I mean that one's like that's the one where I think you could try to make an argument for.
I think that's on par with Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
Similar in story as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
I-
I enjoy the framing device in this, but yeah, I don't know if it would benefit the other volumes. I would like to see him try though. I think he would do interesting things.
How do you like that? The end is him telling all this to someone else at another end.
Yeah, the whole story was in fact a story.
Oh, sorry,
Got
of
you
him
good.
telling. Yep.
We kind
We
of knew
were
that from the start.
we were 2 levels down the whole
The whole
time.
time, yeah. Oh yeah, actually, so was it 5 at that point when Destruction's telling a story?
That
Oh yeah,
top is
remember.
still spinning, my friend. My God.
it is.
I think it's still only 4, actually. Someone else can do the math. This isn't a podcast for people who do math.
Certainly not.
Here's my real issue. So he's in
Mhm.
Chicago, right?
Yep.
She tells him to drive safely. The fuck?
Wow.
Ah, that's funny.
A, he's not driving. B, if he's driving, he's not doing it safely.
Especially not after drinking through that whole goddamn story.
Well, they're driving to Chicago, right? I don't remember
They're
where they're
driving.
driving from.
Yeah. From New Orleans, I think.
Mm.
I'm excited for the next one. I really think I'm ready for it.
I have a sense of
I hope I'm
foreboding.
ready for it.
You have a sense of foreboding. Do you think something's bad's gonna happen? I don't know why.
The blood red moon puts me in the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good sign, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
That is a very cool set of pages, by the way. We should probably mention that before we
It
go
is.
off. The
It
set
is
of
a
double
really
page spreads.
The procession. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like
cool that you get to see all the characters show up again.
yeah.
It's like
It
At least
doesn't
some
really
reason.
leave any. It doesn't really leave any question about what's gonna happen, does it?
No, I guess is Desire in that procession?
Yeah,
I
but
think
like
so.
these characters are not characters that care about desire, right? Like,
For sure. I was trying to figure out who the pallbearers were. Like there's distinct
Um,
haircuts on those guys, and I don't know.
I mean, I think the back right is potentially the Corinthian.
Yeah, I can
Makes
see
sense.
that.
Could that
I
be
don't know who the.
Is that Sandman Loki with the weird hair? The orange
That might
hair?
be Loki.
But why would Loki be bald?
I don't know. He shows up again sometime soon, right?
Yeah, I think.
He's coming back.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Thor is there, and so is Odin. So may as well.
Yeah, and Loki's not with them, I guess, is the other reason, because I was noticing that today. But I had not quite made the connection yet that maybe Loki was the pallbearer. That's why.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking at first the red hair's like, oh, is that Desire? It's like, there's no fucking way Desire would be a pallbearer. No way.
Might be on the other side.
Yeah, true. There's 3 other
I like that
dudes.
the Emperor shows up.
Yep.
All your faves. All your least
Like-
faves are back.
Who's carrying that flag? I don't know. Stoke.
Is that
I think Lucian's on the page with a bunch of people.
okay?
I think.
No, I think
he's-
that's Lucian with the flag and the.
Who's the guy in the
coffin.
glasses in front of Mab's horse then on the next page?
I don't know, some bald guy doesn't have hair.
Next to Merv. I would think that would be Lucian, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's Martian Manhunt.
Oh, there it is.
That's actually Dr. Hugo Strange.
Actually might be. But yeah, lots of things to pique your interest.
Seriously,
about what's
those
going on.
3 panels of death at the end are just sad. Like you're like, something shitty's coming.
And so it
Ah.
is.
But Daddy Centaur.
And it's your responsibility to end the podcast. This isn't my show.
Well, I think that'll
I'm
do
giving
it.
you what I got.
Join us next time when we talk about Volume 9, the penultimate volume, The Kindly Ones.